So before I even tell you guys what today's video is about, I want to address right now my biggest fear, which is that you guys are all gonna think I'm obsessed with cheese, because I'm not obsessed with cheese. But I am making, today's video, now you probably know, today's video is about cheese and show you some examples of cheese that I have. My face is getting red because I'm embarrassed because I think you guys are gonna think I'm obsessed with cheese. Okay, I need to take a break for a minute. This is my cheese collection. It's starting to smell really bad over here too, by the way. First order of business, goat's cheese versus sheep's cheese versus cow's cheese. Goat and sheep cheese together over here and cow's cheese over here. What makes goat cheese better than cow's cheese? The fat molecule in goat's cheese is smaller. So literally, if you took a microscope and you were looking at the fat globules in goat's milk, and then you looked at the fat globules in cow's milk, you would see that the fat globules in goat's milk are actually a little smaller. It's easier to digest and it's more faster, it's quicker, it's more rapidly digested. I don't know why I was struggling with that. Now we shall discuss the fatty acid profiles. Cows raised in North America are not healthy. They're not treated right, they're not fed the right diet, and as a result, quality of milk and the quality of fatty acid in that milk from an unhealthy, inflamed cow is you're gonna have a lot of omega-6 and a lot more inflammatory molecules coming from an unhealthy cow. This is the part that makes the goat's milk super special because it has lots of MCTs. MCTs are medium chain triglycerides, and what makes them special is that they're able to be rapidly absorbed into your blood and they go to your liver, and your liver metabolizes them into ketones. Then your liver, whoosh, releases those ketones into your blood, and these ketones can energize insulin-resistant cells, and they can pass your blood-brain barrier and be used as a potent source of energy by neurons, by your brain cells, and they can even fuel and energize insulin-resistant cells. If you subscribe to the idea that Alzheimer's is really just type 3 diabetes, as in Alzheimer's is a disease of your neurons not being able to access glucose or because your neurons are insulin resistant, then because you can get ketones from eating MCTs, these ketones should be able to alleviate the Alzheimer's symptoms because now you're not dependent on glucose, you can get energy from ketones instead. So for me, before I have an exam, I will take coconut cream in my coffee or MCT oil just to make sure my body has this extra source of energy that's rapidly digested, instantly available, and super potent source of energy for my brain when I know I'm in an exam. Brief word on the nutritional differences. Cow's milk tends to have more B12 and folate. This is just what I Googled on the internet. Goat's milk tends to have more vitamin A, I'm reading my notes, and calcium, and potassium and magnesium. That's what Google said. I don't know if it's true or not. The quality of the fatty acids between goat and cow's milk is a huge difference. Cow's milk tends to be more inflammatory and it will absolutely have way more omega-6s, which you don't really want at all. You need omega-6s because they're essential, but you don't want more of them. I'm getting embarrassed now because I don't want you guys to think I'm like literally obsessed with cheese, because I'm not obsessed with cheese. I'm just excited about nutrition and food science, and the food science in cheese is pretty damn cool. This is Swiss cheese. This is actually from Norway, so it's not actually Swiss cheese, it's Norwegian Swiss cheese. See how it has the holes in it? Okay, whoa, let's back this up a bit. To make cheese, you milk the cow. Pasteurize the milk, add rennet, heat it up a little bit, add lactic acid bacteria, the whey gets removed, the water gets removed, the casein curdles, bam. Now you almost have cheddar cheese. All cheese starts as cheddar cheese, and then depending on what bacteria or mold you add to the cheddar cheese determines what that cheese becomes. So to actually make Swiss cheese with all the little holes, the bubbles, they're actually called eyes, but I like calling them bubbles. We've started with our cheddar cheese and we've added lactic acid bacteria. The lactic acid bacteria metabolizes the lactose into lactic acid. Now that we have this lactate inside the cheese, we add propionic bacteria. And the propionic bacteria eats the lactic acid and it metabolizes carbon dioxide. We have these bubbles. That was where carbon dioxide was. These two bacteria are like best buddies working together to make you this type of cheese. It also makes propionate, which is a short chain fatty acid, and acetate, which is also a short chain fatty acid. And the propionic acid bacteria doesn't stop there. It also metabolizes the amino acid proline, which is probably why it's called propionic acid bacteria. I'll have to Google that. Proline is a sweet tasting amino acid. Like if you just dab proline on your tongue, I don't know where you would get a thing of proline from, but if you dab proline on your tongue, it would taste sweet a little bit. So because that bacteria is making proline in the cheese, now your cheese tastes a little sweet. Throwing it back to the propionate and acetate, these guys are both short chain fatty acids, SCAFAs. If you have ever heard anybody saying, put butter in your coffee because it's so healthy for you, it's so good for your brain, putting butter in your coffee probably isn't a healthy thing to do. But why there are health benefits to it is because butter is super high in the short chain fatty acid butyrate. All these short chain fatty acids are super potent anti-inflammatory fats. If you have healthy gut bacteria, if your gut health is, then your gut bacteria are fermenting fibers that you feed them into these short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids can help repair a gut wall, strengthen a gut wall. Also at your blood-brain barrier, short chain fatty acids like butyrate, propionate, or acetate are again anti-inflammatory, and they help restore the integrity to your blood-brain barrier. So in your Swiss cheese, you're getting a little propionate, a little acetate. Honestly, because it's kind of the same idea as butter, there could be some butyrate. I have no idea. I have to fact check that. But you are indeed getting propionate and acetate. Don't put butter in your coffee. If you like butter, just enjoy butter normally. If you don't like butter, there's no need to add butter because you think you're going to be getting butyrate and brain health benefits from it. Yes, butyrate is good from your brain, but if you just prioritize gut health and eat your prebiotics, then you're getting all these butyrate benefits because your gut's producing butyrate as needed. This is not Brie. This is a blend of sheep and goat's feta, but I'm going to talk about Brie right now. So let's just pretend this is a thing of Brie. Brie is pretty funky because it's a moldy cheese. Literally, it's molded. The fuzz on the surface is mold. And it's creamy on the inside. It's not creamy on the inside because it's like all this fat, like it's like gooey, runny fat inside the cheese. Why Brie is runny is because of the mold. So to actually make Brie, you start with your cheese base, your cheese curds, and then you literally cover it in mold. You inoculate it with, Penicillium candidum. You inoculate the cheese with Penicillium candidum, and what this mold does is it covers the whole outside of the cheese. The mold extends its mycelia, it's like little mold roots, into the cheese. What the mold does is it secretes these proteolytic enzymes. So the mold feet that are reaching deep into the Brie are chopping up the protein inside the Brie. When it chops up these proteins, the cheese inside loses its structure and it allows the cheese to become runny and like melty. Like, you know, if you hold up a piece of Brie, it would just like goop. That's not because it's extra fatty. That's because literally mold has destroyed the protein structure. The cheese just runs like that. Lastly, protein in cheese. And this is something that I'm interested in because, like I said, I don't really have cheese that often. I'll only have cheese really if I'm having like a nice Mediterranean inspired salad for lunch and I want to add cheese for protein and healthy fats. Let me refer to my notes. Highest protein: Parmesan, halloumi, mozzarella, Swiss cheese, cottage cheese. Also added ricotta, not because ricotta is high in protein, but because it's very low calories. 100 calories of ricotta versus 100 calories of Parmesan, the ricotta is gonna end up having way more protein. But if you look at like one blob of ricotta versus one blob of Parmesan, Parmesan has way more protein, but it also has more calories. This is what I love to do. Blend cottage cheese and then roast beets and I'll roast carrots and then I'll have that whipped cottage cheese and I'll drizzle on a little olive oil, sprinkle on a little rock salt. And I have like this beautiful whipped cottage cheese with olive oil and I just dip my roasted vegetables in there and it is so good. And it's a high source of protein and then I get healthy fats from the olive oil. Other favorite thing to do with cottage cheese: whip your cottage cheese up in the blender, add a sprinkling of cinnamon, like 3 tablespoons of cacao powder and like a small little drop of stevia, and it is so freaking good. I like stevia more than honey because it's sugar-free, no calories, and it's not gonna give you cavities, and it's not gonna spike your blood sugar. Oh, cottage cheese science. Why does whipped cottage cheese even taste so good? When you blend the cottage cheese, you're micro-particulating. Look at that. Kitty wants to talk about cottage cheese. Oh, he doesn't care. When you whip the cottage cheese and you blend the cottage cheese, you're micro-particulating the proteins. Okay, balance. Okay, my cat's gone. Just me and you and the cheese. Essentially, the protein molecule is kind of big and kind of chunky, and your tongue knows that. You know, you eat it and it's like, ew, gross, what's this? Ugh, it's chunky, you don't like it. When you microparticulate it, your tongue cannot distinguish one molecule from the other molecule. And what this actually does is it tricks your brain into thinking you're eating something fat and super creamy, right? When you blend the cottage cheese, it goes from chunky, lumpy into like smooth, rich, creamy. You're not changing the calories, you're not changing the fat content. All you're doing is changing the texture. It literally tricks your brain into basically thinking, instead of chunky cottage cheese, now your brain's lighting up like you're eating ice cream, which is why we get so much more pleasure or enjoyment out of whipped cottage cheese than chunky cottage cheese. If you're on like a low fat, low calorie diet for whatever purposes, whatever reasons, you can whip cottage cheese and use that to replace cream cheese. As we conclude this video, I'll show you my cheeses. This cheese, I've never tried it before in my whole entire life. It is called Mizithra. It's from Greece. If you know how to say it, type it in the comments and tell me. But it's hard, like it's rock hard. And it's white, it's made from sheep and goat cheese, and it's from Greece. This is the Swiss Norwegian cheese. It's not hard, it's squishy. This is some type of sheep's Parmesan. Oh, never mind, it's from a cow. Damn it, I thought it was from a sheep. Focus. Castello Piave Vecchio. Piave Vecchio Castello. And this is my favorite cheese in the whole wide world. Without being someone that's obsessed with cheese, goat and sheep's feta. It's from Greece, and it's got olives. I think this one's just olive. I took the label off, so I don't actually know which one it is because I like the surprise. I'll have like this whole thing with a bunch of roasted vegetables, and you put it in the oven and you broil it so it gets like a little crispy, a little melty, and then same idea. Roasted vegetables. Let me know in the comments if you notice my Christmas tree, because I put it here specifically to be in the video. If you want to learn more about this cheese stuff or more about this fatty acid stuff, the whole chapter on fats, MCTs, what fats are good, what fats are bad, what's some truth on seed oils and omega-6s, that's all inside my book, The Glow Formula, in the chapters on fats. You can go to my website, nutritionbyelsa.com. And when you get there, you will see all my stuff. I have 2 little freebies, but you can also see my higher value, way better quality in terms of information and usability content there, including my book, The Glow Formula, where we talk about the fats and the cheeses and the goats and the cows and the omega-6s and the seed oils. That's all in the chapters in fat. The first chapter is my story and how I even got here, which was hard for me to write because it's a little personal, but it's in my book now, and if you buy my book, you get to know my life a little more. Okay, have a good day, everybody. See you later.